He's
Hi, my beautiful
perfect.
family. Welcome back to Mr.
Just
Peter
like his dad.
Stories, your own family
I can't
channel.
believe he's
May the
finally
Almighty
here.
wrap every woman in a light so gentle and pure that every wound in her heart begins to heal. May He bless you with a peace that settles your spirit, a strength that no storm can break, and a love that follows you everywhere you go. You who carry families, you who hold pain silently, you who stand when others fall, may every unseen sacrifice return to you as endless blessings. I pray your nights become calm, your days become brighter, and your future opens with doors you never imagined. May every tear you ever cried turn into a miracle. May every burden you carried alone be lifted from your shoulders, and may every step you take be protected, honored, and guided toward joy that never ends. You deserve oceans of respect, mountains of love, and heavens of comfort for all you give without asking anything back. My beautiful family, your comments and your presence mean everything to me. I'm here with you, and I promise I will read and reply to every word you write, because this family is built on love. If your heart is true, like the video. If your love is real, write, "I am with Mr. Peter." Andrea Topaz Carson's legs trembled as she pressed her blood-stained palm against the nursery window. 22 hours of labor had left her hollow, but she'd forced herself out of bed to see her daughter. Third bassinet from the left, 6 pounds, 4 ounces wrapped in pink cotton. Andrea had delivered her alone, just her sister Simone gripping her hand through every contraction because her husband Glenn was supposedly in London caring for his dying mother. Except Glenn wasn't in London. He stood 15 feet away on the other side of the glass, wearing surgical scrubs, cradling a newborn that wasn't their daughter. A blonde woman was pressed against his side, her hand possessive on his shoulder, gazing up at him with adoration Andrea recognized from their wedding day. The blonde said something. Glenn laughed and shifted the infant so she could stroke its cheek. Tender, familiar, devastating. Andrea's knees buckled. "Mrs. Carson!" A nurse caught her before she hit the floor. "You shouldn't be walking. You lost almost 2 pints during delivery." Andrea couldn't speak. She could only point through the glass at the man who'd promised forever. The nurse followed her gaze. Her professional mask cracked. "Oh no." Glenn looked up. His eyes met Andrea's across the nursery, and every drop of color drained from his face. The baby in his arms began to cry, but he stood frozen, staring at his wife like she was a ghost. The blonde woman noticed, turned, saw Andrea swaying in her hospital gown, blood seeping through the fabric. "Who is that?" The woman's voice carried through the speaker. "Glenn? Who is that woman?" Glenn's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. "That's my husband." Andrea's voice came out steady and cold. "That man holding your baby is my husband, and I just spent 22 hours screaming his name while I gave birth to his daughter, alone." The blonde stumbled backward. "What? No. Glenn said he was divorced. He said his ex-wife wouldn't sign papers, but they'd been separated for 3 years. He lied." Andrea never took her eyes off Glenn. "We've been married 6 years. We live together. We tried for this baby for 18 months. When did you deliver?" "This morning, 6 hours ago. A boy." The woman's voice shattered. "Glenn held my hand through everything. He said he loved me. He said we were finally going to be a family." The nurse's grip tightened on Andrea's arm. "Mrs. Carson, you need to get back to your room." But Andrea stood her ground. She looked at Glenn and memorized this moment, the exact second her marriage died. "I'm in room 437, she said. "That's where your daughter will be, with me, the woman you promised to love and cherish." She turned to the nurse. "I'm ready now." A wheelchair appeared. As they wheeled her toward the elevator, Andrea heard the blonde woman's voice rising. "Tell me the truth. How long have you been married?" Glenn's response was too quiet, but the woman's scream carried down the corridor. 18 months. You've been with me for 18 months and you're still married. You came to every ultrasound. You picked out names. You were planning our wedding." The elevator doors closed on the sound of Glenn's other life imploding. Simone was pacing Andrea's room like a caged animal. She spun when Andrea entered. "They said you collapsed. What happened?" Then she saw Andrea's face. "Oh, God! Glenn's here!" Andrea's voice was mechanical. "He's not in London. He's here with another woman. She had his baby this morning. A boy. 6 hours before I delivered our daughter." Simone's face cycled through confusion, disbelief, horror. "What?" "He told her he was divorced. She's wearing a hospital gown just like mine. She thought he was going to marry her." "That son of a bitch!" Simone's hands curled into fists. "I'm going to kill him." "No." Andrea's voice cut like a blade. "You're going to stay here, because Glenn's coming through that door any minute, and I need to be ready." As if summoned, there was a knock. Neither woman moved. The knock came again, harder, desperate. "Andrea, please, let me explain." "Don't call her that," Simone hissed, but Andrea caught her wrist. "Let him in. I want to hear what he thinks could explain this." Simone stared at her sister, then yanked the door open. Glenn stood there, still in surgical scrubs, hair wild, eyes bloodshot. He looked like a man on a cliff's edge. "Andrea," he took a step forward. Simone blocked him. "I need you to understand." "Understand what?" Andrea's voice was ice. "Help me understand how you told me you were flying to London, how you didn't answer a single call while I was in labor, how you were in this hospital, on another floor, holding another woman's hand while she gave birth to your son." Glenn flinched. "My mother was never sick. There was no stroke. I lied because Susan needed me. She's been high risk. The doctors said she could deliver any day. But you could miss our daughter's birth." Each word was precise. "You could leave me to deliver alone. You could ignore my calls while I was bleeding and screaming. I didn't know you were in labor. Susan went into early labor 2 days ago. I've been with her since Monday night. I turned my phone off because stress wasn't good for her." Monday night. Andrea's mind clicked through the timeline. "That's when you left for London. You kissed me goodbye in our foyer." Glenn said nothing. "How long?" Andrea asked. "How long have you been with her?" "Andrea, it's not—" "Answer me!" The scream tore from her throat. "How long have you been sleeping with another woman while coming home to our bed?" Glenn's shoulders collapsed. 18 months. 18 months. Andrea let the words hang. "We found out I was pregnant 16 months ago. So when I told you we were having a baby, when we celebrated, you were already with Susan." "Yes." "And when she got pregnant?" Glenn closed his eyes. 3 months after you." The math assembled itself. "So for 13 months you've had 2 pregnant girlfriends." "Susan didn't know about you," Glenn said quickly. "I told her I was divorced. I showed her an apartment and said it was mine. I built a life with her because I—" He stopped. "Because you what?" Glenn opened his eyes. "Because I love her." The words detonated between them. Simone lunged, but Andrea held firm. "Get out," Andrea said softly. "Andrea, please, get out of my room. You have 5 seconds before I call security. I want to see my daughter. I have a right. Your daughter was born 6 hours ago while you held your son. You made your choice. Now get out." Glenn stood frozen, then turned and walked out. The door clicked shut. Andrea sat perfectly still, hands folded, face calm. Simone was crying, but Andrea's eyes were dry. "Hand me my phone." "What? No, you need to rest." "Hand me my phone, now." Simone pulled Andrea's iPhone from the drawer. Andrea unlocked it and scrolled to a name she hadn't called in years. Devereaux Ashford, Glenn's business partner. 2 rings. "Andrea, is everything all right?" "Glenn's not in London," Andrea said calmly. "He's never been in London. He's here in Boston with another woman. Her name is Susan Murphy. I need you to tell me everything you know about her." Long silence. "How much do you want to know?" "Everything." "She's been living in the penthouse on Commonwealth Avenue since spring, the one you decorated last year. Glenn pays her rent, bought her a Range Rover. She thinks he's divorced. Her family knows him as Glenn Murphy. He took her last name. He spent Thanksgiving with them. Christmas too. They think he's perfect. Andrea absorbed each fact. What else? That's everything. Andrea, I'm sorry. I should have told you, but Glenn swore he was ending it after the baby. He said a lot of things. Thank you for your honesty. She hung up. Simone stared at her. What are you going to do? Andrea looked at her hands. They weren't shaking. Her mind was already working. I'm going to destroy him, she said simply. Not with rage, not with tears, with precision, with documentation, with every legal tool I have. A soft knock. A nurse wheeled in a bassinet. Someone wants to meet her mommy. Andrea's daughter, wrapped in pink, tiny fists, curled. The nurse placed the baby in Andrea's arms. The weight was perfect. The warmth was real. Hello, sweetheart, Andrea whispered. I'm your mama, and I'm going to make sure you never feel the pain I'm feeling right now. The baby stirred, opened dark eyes identical to Andrea's. Your daddy made a mistake, Andrea continued softly, and he's going to spend the rest of his life paying for it. But you're going to have everything. Love, stability, truth. Simone was crying openly. Andrea looked up. Go to the nursery. Find out everything about Susan Murphy. Room number, discharge date, family, everything. You should rest. I'll rest when I know what I'm dealing with. Andrea's eyes were hard. Glenn thinks he can explain this away. He's wrong. He's about to find out exactly who he married. Simone studied her sister, then nodded and left. Andrea sat alone with her daughter, listening to tiny breathing sounds. Her phone buzzed, a text from Glenn. I know you're angry. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But please let me see our daughter. Don't punish her for my mistakes. Andrea stared at the message, then typed with one hand. You'll see her when my lawyer says you can. Not before. She hit send, blocked his number, called hospital security. This is Andrea Carson in room 437. My husband Glenn Carson is not permitted in my room or near my daughter. If he attempts to enter, remove him immediately. The officer confirmed. Andrea hung up. Her daughter made a small sound. Your middle name is Grace, Andrea whispered, after my grandmother, the strongest woman I ever knew. You're going to grow up knowing that strength isn't about never falling. It's about how you rise after someone knocks you down. The baby's hand found Andrea's finger, gripped it hard. Outside she could hear raised voices, Glenn's among them, arguing with security, demanding his rights. But Andrea didn't move. She sat holding her daughter, mentally composing the divorce filing that would strip Glenn of everything. The perfect marriage was dead. The perfect revenge was just beginning. Chapter 2. The Exposure. Simone returned at dawn with a folder thick enough to kill someone. Andrea hadn't slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Glenn's face in the nursery, saw that tenderness as he looked at Susan's baby. Grace Isabella Carson, officially named at 4 a.m, slept in the bassinet beside the bed. Andrea had unblocked Glenn's number just to watch his messages accumulate. Please, Andrea, we need to talk. I never meant to hurt you. Susan won't let me see our son. She's threatening to leave. Can we please talk? For Grace's sake? Andrea screenshotted each one, forwarded them to her email, building the case. Simone set the folder on the bed. You're not going to like this. Tell me. Susan Murphy, 28, interior designer, from Vermont. She met Glenn at a real estate conference 18 months ago. Simone flipped through papers. He hired her to stage properties. That's how it started. Of course. Andrea's voice was flat. Professional relationship that became personal. She has no idea about you. Her parents think Glenn's divorced. She posted about him on social media, hundreds of photos. Glenn at her family's Thanksgiving, Glenn at her cousin's wedding. Andrea felt something crack inside her chest. Show me. Simone hesitated, then handed over her phone. The photos were devastating. Glenn looking at Susan the way he'd looked at Andrea in their wedding album, his arm around Susan's waist at a pumpkin patch, Glenn's hand on Susan's pregnant belly. There's more, Simone said quietly. Hospital records show Susan delivered at 6:14 yesterday morning. You went into labor at 7:30. Glenn was with Susan from Monday night through her delivery. He never left her side. Andrea did the math. So when I called him Monday night to say I was having contractions, he was already at the hospital with Susan. Yes. He turned his phone off at 8:15 Monday night. Security footage shows him arriving with Susan at 7:45. He stayed until she delivered, then went to the nursery. That's where you found him. He chose her. The words tasted like metal. When we both needed him, he chose her. Andrea, what else? Simone pulled out more papers. Financial records. Glenn's been paying Susan's rent for 8 months. $15,000 a month for the penthouse you decorated. He bought her that Range Rover in July, $72,000. From our joint account. Yes. Andrea's hands tightened on the folder. So I've been funding his affair. There's something else. Simone pulled out a photograph. From Susan's Instagram, posted 3 weeks ago. The photo showed Glenn on one knee in front of Susan, holding a ring box. Susan's hand over her mouth, tears streaming. The caption, he asked. I said yes. Can't wait to marry my best friend and build our forever family. Andrea stared at the photo. He proposed to her. 247 people liked it. Susan's mother commented, so happy for you both. Glenn is such a wonderful man. He's still married to me. Andrea's voice was eerily calm. He proposed to another woman while legally married to me. I know. What ring did he give her? Simone winced. Your grandmother's emerald, the one he told you was being cleaned. Something inside Andrea turned to ice. He gave my grandmother's ring to his pregnant mistress and proposed marriage while I was home, 8 months pregnant, believing every lie. Yes. Andrea closed the folder, looked at her daughter sleeping peacefully. Call Thaddeus Brennan. Tell him I need him here this morning. The divorce attorney? The best in Massachusetts. The one who destroyed Jonathan Whitmore. The one who left him with nothing. Simone pulled out her phone. What are you going to do? I'm going to take everything Glenn thinks he can keep. His money, his reputation, his business, his access to our daughter, everything. Good. A knock interrupted them. Andrea tensed, but Simone checked the door. It's Devereux. Let him in. Glenn's business partner entered carrying coffee and profound guilt. Silver-haired, usually unflappable. Today he looked shattered. Andrea, I don't know what to say. Sit down, Devereux. Tell me about the business. He blinked. What? Carson Properties, the company Glenn and I built. Tell me what's happening with it. Devereux sat slowly. What do you want to know? Everything Glenn's been hiding from me. Long silence. Then Devereux pulled out his own folder. Glenn's been moving money. Over the past 8 months, almost $2 million transferred from company accounts into offshore accounts, listed as business expenses. It's fraud. Andrea's legal mind kicked in. Can you prove it? I have every transaction documented. I've been building a case because I knew this would explode eventually. What else? He forged your signature on loan documents, borrowed against jointly owned properties, used the money for Susan's penthouse, her car. If those loans default, you're legally liable. He forged my signature. Multiple times. I have the documents. An expert could prove forgery. Andrea absorbed this. Why didn't you tell me? I was going to. But Glenn kept saying he'd fix it, that he'd put the money back, that he was ending things after the baby. I believed him. Stop apologizing. Start helping me. I want copies of everything, every forged document, every fraudulent transfer. Devereux nodded. You'll have it by this afternoon. And Devereux, I want an emergency board meeting, independent auditors, every single thing Glenn's done exposed. Andrea, that could destroy the company. Glenn already did that. Her voice was steel. He used my family's money to start that company, my reputation to build it, and he used it all to fund his life with another woman. I want the world to know exactly who Glenn Carson is. Devereaux stood. You'll have everything you need. After he left, Simone was staring. You're not just divorcing him, you're destroying him. He destroyed me first. Grace started to cry. Andrea lifted her daughter. Your daddy thinks I'm going to fall apart, Andrea whispered. He thinks I'll cry and eventually forgive him. But he's wrong. He married a civil rights attorney, someone who knows exactly how to fight. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Andrea answered. Hello? Is this Andrea Carson? A woman's voice, young, shaking. Who is this? My name is Susan Murphy. I think we need to talk. Andrea's grip tightened. I think we do. Can you meet me? Somewhere private? I'm in the hospital with our newborn daughter. You're in the hospital with your newborn son. Neither of us should be meeting anywhere. Then can we talk, please? Glenn's been lying to me for 18 months and I need to know what's real. Andrea considered. What do you want to know? Everything. When did you get married? Are you really separated? We got married 6 years ago, Andrea said clearly. We've never been separated. We live together in the same house, sleep in the same bed. We were trying for this baby for 18 months. Glenn has never filed for divorce. Until yesterday, I thought we had the perfect marriage. Silence, then a sob being swallowed. He proposed to me, Susan whispered, 3 weeks ago. Got down on one knee, gave me a ring. My whole family knows. We've been planning the wedding. I know. I saw the photos. You saw? Susan's breathing became ragged. Oh God, this is real. He's been lying to both of us. Yes. I'm going to be sick. Don't be. Be angry. Anger is useful. Long silence. My parents love him. My mom keeps saying how lucky I am. She can't wait for the wedding. I know what that's like, Andrea said softly. Everyone loved Glenn. Everyone told me how perfect we were, how lucky I was. That's exactly how he looks at me. Susan's voice cracked. Was any of it real? I don't know. I've been asking myself the same question. What are you going to do? Andrea looked at Grace. I'm going to divorce him, take everything he values, make sure he never gets the chance to do this to anyone else. Can I help? Andrea paused. What? Can I help you destroy him? He made me look like an idiot. He let me plan a wedding while married. He was with me when I found out I was pregnant, cried and said it was the happiest day of his life. Was he lying then too? Probably. He cried when I told him I was pregnant, said the same thing. Susan made a sound of pure rage. That bastard! If you want to help, I need you to document everything, every lie, every promise, every time he said he was divorced. Save every text, email, photo. I have 18 months of texts, hundreds of photos, emails about wedding venues and baby names. He even helped me write my vows. Andrea closed her eyes. Perfect. Send me everything. Why are you being nice to me? I'm the woman who slept with your husband. You didn't know he was my husband. He lied to you too. Right now, Susan, you and I have the same enemy. Glenn. Glenn, Andrea confirmed. So are you going to help me? Send me your email. I'll forward everything. And Andrea, I'm sorry. Don't apologize. Just help me make him pay. Susan hung up. Simone was staring. You just made an alliance with Glenn's mistress. I made an alliance with another woman he lied to. There's a difference. You're terrifying when you're like this. Good. Glenn should be terrified. Andrea looked at her daughter. Because I'm just getting started. Chapter 3. The Revelation. The story broke on social media before Andrea even left the hospital. Someone posted about seeing a man with 2 women and 2 newborns in the same hospital on the same day. Vague enough to avoid HIPAA violations, but specific enough to spark interest. Just witnessed the most insane drama at the hospital. Guy was with his pregnant girlfriend in labor, then his actual wife showed up in labor at the same time. Both women delivered on the same day, both had his babies. Wife had no idea. This is better than any soap opera. The post had been shared 4,000 times by the time Simone showed it to Andrea. Then someone connected the dots. OMG, this is Glenn Carson. I know his wife Andrea. They were like the perfect couple. The second post included their names. Then the floodgates opened. People who knew them started commenting, sharing observations, suspicions. I knew something was weird when Andrea missed the gala and Glenn showed up with that blonde woman. Remember when Glenn said he was traveling for business? Guess we know where he really was. Andrea always seemed so perfect. Guess she wasn't perfect enough to keep her husband interested. That last comment made Andrea's hands shake with rage. She was discharged Thursday afternoon, 48 hours after delivering Grace. Her body still bleeding, still aching, but she couldn't stay another second. Simone drove her home to the Beacon Hill townhouse, the 3-story masterpiece they'd bought 5 years ago. Glenn's car was in the driveway. "Want me to call the police?" Simone asked. "No, I want to see what he has to say." They entered. Glenn was sitting on the couch, still wearing the same clothes. He looked like he hadn't slept. He stood when Andrea entered. "Andrea, thank God. I need to explain. Get out of my house. This is my house too. We own it together." "Not for long." Andrea set the car seat with Grace down. "I want you out, now. I live here. You can't just kick me out. Watch me." Andrea pulled out her phone. "I have a restraining order being filed this afternoon. Devereux has documentation of your fraud. Susan has 18 months of texts proving you told her you were divorced. I have attorneys ready to destroy you, so I'm asking one more time. Get out." Glenn's face crumbled. "Andrea, please. I made a mistake, a huge mistake, but I love you." "You love me?" Andrea's laugh was bitter. "You spent 18 months sleeping with another woman? You proposed to her while married to me. You gave her my grandmother's ring. I can explain." "There is no explanation." The scream tore from her throat. "You lied every single day for 18 months. You let me plan for our baby while planning a wedding with Susan. You missed our daughter's birth." I was confused. I didn't know what to do. "You what? Decided to keep both of us?" Andrea stepped closer. "Tell me, Glenn, when you were with me, were you thinking about her?" Glenn's silence was answer enough. "Get out," Andrea said quietly. "Take whatever you can carry. If you're not gone in 10 minutes, I'm calling the police." "Where am I supposed to go?" "I don't care. Go to Susan, go to hell. Just get out of my sight." Glenn looked at her for a long moment. Then he went upstairs. Andrea sank onto the couch, shaking. Simone sat beside her. "You did good," Simone whispered. "I feel like I'm going to throw up." Upstairs they could hear Glenn moving, opening drawers, closing suitcases. Andrea's phone buzzed constantly, text after text. "Andrea, I just saw the posts. Is it true? OMG, I can't believe Glenn did this. Do you need anything? I always knew he was too good to be true." Each message felt like a knife. Everyone who'd envied their perfect marriage now knew it was a lie. Her phone rang. Her mother. Andrea almost didn't answer. "Hello, Mom. Andrea Lynn Carson, what is happening? Marjorie just called saying Glenn has another woman and a baby." "It's true." Silence. Then, "What do you mean it's true?" "Glenn's been having an affair for 18 months. The woman got pregnant. She delivered 6 hours before I delivered Grace. Glenn was with her. He told her he was divorced. He told her, 'Andrea, this can't be right. Glenn loves you. Glenn loves Glenn. That's it. But you two were perfect together.'" Andrea closed her eyes. "Everyone was wrong. Well, you need to fix this. You can't throw away 6 years because he made one mistake. Men stray. You forgive him, move on, rebuild." "He didn't stray, Mom. He built an entire second life. He proposed to her. He gave her my grandmother's ring." "Your grandmother's ring? He gave away the topaz emerald?" "Yes." Now her mother was furious. "That ring has been in our family for 4 generations. You need to get that back." "I'm more concerned about getting my life back. Don't be dramatic. You have a new baby. You need a husband." "I'd rather do it alone than with a liar. Think about Grace. She needs a father. She has a father, just not one who lives here anymore." Andrea hung up before her mother could respond. Glenn came downstairs carrying 2 suitcases. He looked at Andrea one more time. "I'm sorry," he said, "for everything. I never wanted to hurt you, but you did anyway. That's the difference between us, Glenn. I would never have done this to you, no matter how confused I was. I know. Do you? Because I don't think you understand what you've destroyed. Not just our marriage, our life, our future. You took it all and lit it on fire for 18 months with a woman who didn't even know your real name. Glenn's face twisted. I love her. I know you don't want to hear that, but it's true. Then go be with her. See how long she loves you when she realizes you lied about everything. When she finds out you're broke because I'm taking everything. She knows the real me. No, Glenn. Susan knows the fantasy you created. The divorced man starting over. That person isn't real, and when she figures that out, she's going to hate you just as much as I do. Glenn picked up his bags, walked to the door, turned back. Can I at least see Grace? Not today. Maybe not ever. That's up to my lawyer. But right now, no. You gave up that right when you chose to hold Susan's baby instead. Glenn's face crumpled, but Andrea felt nothing. No sympathy, no regret, just cold, hard rage. He left. The door closed with a sound like a coffin lid. Andrea sat on the couch and let herself cry for the first time since the hospital. Great, gulping sobs that shook her whole body. Simone held her. Grace slept in her car seat, oblivious. It's going to be okay, Simone whispered. No, it's not. Everyone knows. Everyone who thought we were perfect now knows the truth, that I wasn't enough. That's not what happened. That's what everyone thinks. I saw the comments. Andrea always seemed so perfect. Guess she wasn't perfect enough. That this is somehow my fault. Those people are idiots. Those people are my friends, my colleagues, my clients, and they all think I failed. Andrea's phone buzzed. A text from Devereux. Emergency board meeting tomorrow at 10. Independent auditors coming. This is going to get ugly. Andrea wiped her eyes, sat up straight. Good. Let it get ugly. I'm done pretending. I'm done protecting Glenn's reputation. If he wants to destroy our life, then everyone gets to watch it burn. Chapter 4. The Collapse. The board meeting was a massacre. Andrea arrived at Carson Properties at 9:50. She wore a black suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Her hair was perfect, her makeup flawless. She looked like a woman who had her life together. She was falling apart inside. The boardroom went silent when she entered. 8 people sat around the table. Devereux, 3 other partners, 2 investors, 2 independent auditors, and Glenn. He sat at the far end looking like he'd aged 10 years in 3 days. Wrinkled suit, bloodshot eyes, cut himself shaving. Andrea, he started, you don't have to do this. We can work this out privately. Sit down, Glenn. Andrea's voice was ice. This meeting is about Carson Properties, not our marriage. She took her seat, opened her laptop. Thank you for coming on short notice, she began. I've discovered evidence of significant financial irregularities. Irregularities that put everyone in this room at legal and financial risk. One investor leaned forward. What kind of irregularities? Andrea nodded to Devereux. He pulled up the first document. Over the past 8 months, almost $2 million has been transferred from company accounts into offshore accounts controlled by Glenn Carson, listed as business expenses. They were not business expenses. Silence. That's not true, Glenn said weakly. Those were legitimate transactions. Were they? Andrea pulled up the next slide. Then explain why expense reports show payments to vendors that don't exist. Explain wire transfers to the Cayman Islands. Explain withdrawals labeled as property maintenance when no properties were maintained. Glenn's face went white. Andrea, stop. I'm just getting started. Next slide. This is a loan document for $3 million, using our jointly owned properties as collateral. This is my signature. She zoomed in. Except this isn't my signature. It's a forgery. I never signed this. I never authorized this loan. According to the terms, if we default, we lose 4 properties worth $12 million. One partner stood up. Glenn, what the hell is going on? I can explain. Then explain. Explain why you've been committing fraud. I needed the money for a personal investment. I was going to pay it back. A personal investment? Andrea's laugh was bitter. Is that what you're calling her? Susan Murphy, the woman you've been living with, the woman whose penthouse you bought with our stolen money. The room exploded. You stole company money for your mistress? Are you insane? We could all go to prison. Glenn stood, hands raised. Everyone calm down. Yes, I made mistakes, but I was planning to repay everything. A misunderstanding, Andrea stood. You forged my signature. You committed fraud. You embezzled $2 million. Those aren't misunderstandings, Glenn. Those are crimes. One auditor spoke up. Mrs. Carson is correct. Based on documentation, there's clear evidence of wire fraud, forgery, and embezzlement. We're legally obligated to report these findings. Glenn's face went grey. No, I'll pay it back. All of it. Just give me time. With what money? Devereaux asked quietly. Your accounts are empty. You're broke, Glenn. I'm not broke. I have properties, investments. Had, Andrea corrected. You had those things, but as of this morning, I've filed for divorce and requested a freeze on all jointly owned assets. Until a judge divides our property, you have exactly nothing. Glenn stared at her. You froze everything? Everything. The house, the properties, the accounts, all of it. You wanted to build a life with Susan? Build it with your own money? Except you don't have any. I own half of everything. You forged my signature, used marital assets for your affair. Watch me. One investor stood. I'm out. I want my money back. Today. So do I, said another. This company is toxic. Everyone wait, Glenn pleaded. We can fix this. Andrea, please, don't destroy everything we built. I'm not destroying anything, Andrea said calmly. You already did that. I'm just making sure everyone knows who's responsible. She closed her laptop. I'm resigning from Carson Properties effective immediately. I want my name removed from every document. Devereaux, you have my written resignation. The rest of you, get lawyers, because when the authorities investigate, they're going to have questions. She walked to the door. Andrea, wait. Glenn followed into the hallway. You can't just leave. This company is everything we worked for. No, Glenn, this company is everything I worked for while you were working on Susan. I'm begging you, don't report this. Don't destroy my career. You should have thought about your career before you committed fraud. Andrea's voice finally cracked. You should have answered your phone when I called 27 times in labor. You should have been there, Glenn. But you weren't. You chose Susan. So live with that choice. She walked toward the elevator. Glenn grabbed her arm. Don't touch me. Please. I love you. I made a mistake. But I love you. Andrea looked down at his hand, then at his face. You don't love me. You love the idea of me, the successful wife who made you look good. But you don't love the real me. Because if you did, you never could have done this. She pulled free and stepped into the elevator. The last thing she saw was Glenn's face crumpling as he realized he'd lost everything. Andrea made it to her car before she started shaking, made it 3 blocks before she had to pull over because she couldn't see through tears. She'd just destroyed Glenn's career, exposed his fraud, ruined his reputation, and it felt terrible, not because she regretted it, but because she'd loved him. Despite everything, some part of her had loved the man she thought he was, and that man was gone. Had maybe never existed. Her phone rang, unknown number. Hello? Andrea, it's Susan. I just got a call from Glenn. He's hysterical. What happened? Andrea wiped her eyes. I exposed him. Showed the board everything. The fraud, the embezzlement, the forgery. It's over. His career is over. Good. He deserves it. Does he? Or am I just angry and taking it too far? Andrea, he lied to both of us for 18 months. He stole money. He committed crimes. You're holding him accountable. Everyone's going to hate me. They're going to say I destroyed him over an affair. Screw everyone. You did what needed to be done. Andrea laughed despite herself. When did you become my ally? When I realized we're both victims of the same liar, I sent you all those emails like you asked. Thank you. They're going to be crucial in the divorce. What happens now? Now Glenn loses everything, his business, his money, his reputation, and hopefully his access to our daughter. What about me? Andrea paused. What about you? What should I do about Glenn? Stay away from him. He's going to try to come back. Promise you everything. Don't believe him. I won't. I already told him we're done. He cried, said I was abandoning him when he needed me most. Classic Glenn, making himself the victim. My parents are devastated. My mum keeps asking what I did to make him lie. You didn't do anything wrong. Neither did I. He's the one who made these choices. Silence. Then Susan's voice, small. Do you think any of it was real? The way he looked at me? Andrea closed her eyes. I don't know. I've been asking myself the same question. I'm scared I'll never trust anyone again. Join the club. They sat in silence, two women connected by the wreckage of the same man. I have to go, Susan said finally. My parents want to talk. Good luck. Andrea, thank you for not hating me. I'm saving all my hate for Glenn. Susan laughed sadly. Me too. Andrea drove home in silence. By tomorrow, the whole city would know. Glenn Carson, the golden boy of Boston real estate, was a fraud. Her phone buzzed. A text from Thaddeus Brennan. Heard about the board meeting, well played. Preliminary divorce hearing is Friday. Judge is sympathetic. I think we can get full custody. Andrea stared at the message. Full custody meant Glenn would barely see Grace. Part of her wanted that, wanted to punish him, but part of her remembered the Glenn she'd fallen in love with, the man who'd proposed on a beach, who'd held her when her father died. That man was gone, had maybe never existed, but Grace deserved a father, even if that father was a liar. Andrea texted back, I want full custody with supervised visitation. He doesn't get to be alone with her. Not yet, maybe not ever, but she should know who he is. Understood. I'll make it happen. Andrea pulled into her driveway. The house looked different now, empty, like a shell. Inside, Simone was playing with Grace. How did it go? Simone asked. I destroyed him, completely. Good. Everyone's going to hate me. Let them. Andrea sat on the floor beside them. Grace reached for her. What if I'm making a mistake? What if I'm being too vindictive? You're not. You're protecting yourself and your daughter. That's survival. Andrea picked up Grace, held her close. I used to think love was enough, she whispered. I thought if you loved someone enough, you could build anything. And now I know love means nothing without honesty, without loyalty, without someone who chooses you every day, not just when it's convenient. Grace made a small, cooing sound. You're going to know better, Andrea told her daughter. You're going to grow up watching me rebuild, watching me choose myself, and you're never going to settle for someone who makes you question your worth. Her phone buzzed. A text from Glenn. You've destroyed everything. I hope you're happy. Andrea stared at the message. Then she blocked his number again. She wasn't happy, but she would be. Eventually. Chapter 5. The Warfare. The divorce hearing was a bloodbath. Andrea sat with Thaddeus Brennan and watched Glenn squirm. His lawyer, Rothman, an expensive gun who specialized in making cheating husbands look like victims, kept whispering frantically. Judge Patricia Hendricks presided, a woman in her 60s with steel-gray hair and a reputation for destroying men who lied. Mr. Carson, Judge Hendricks began, I've reviewed the preliminary filings. Glenn stood. Yes, Your Honor. You admit to an affair lasting 18 months, during which you impregnated your mistress while your wife was also pregnant? Yes, Your Honor, but I'm not asking for explanations. I'm establishing facts. You also admit to forging your wife's signature. Glenn hesitated. Rothman nudged him. Yes, Your Honor. And you admit to transferring approximately $2 million from jointly owned accounts without your wife's knowledge. The money was for business. Answer the question, Mr. Carson. Did you transfer the money without your wife's knowledge? Yes. Judge Hendricks looked over her glasses. Mr. Carson, in my 30 years on the bench, I've rarely seen someone quite as bold in their dishonesty. Rothman stood. Your Honor, my client acknowledges his mistakes. He's here to make amends and establish a fair custody arrangement. Fair? Thaddeus stood. Your Honor, Mr. Carson abandoned his wife during labor to be with his mistress. He missed his daughter's birth entirely. My client has rights as a father. Your client forfeited those rights when he chose another woman's delivery over his own child's birth. Judge Hendricks held up a hand. Enough. Mrs. Carson, what are you requesting? Andrea stood. Your Honor, I'm requesting full physical and legal custody of my daughter, Grace Isabella Carson. Drug testing, Glenn exploded. I don't have a drug problem. Mr. Carson, you'll address the court respectfully, Judge Hendricks warned. Mrs. Carson, why drug testing? Because I don't know my husband at all, Your Honor. I thought I knew him. I was wrong about all of it. So before I allow him near my infant daughter, I need assurance there aren't other secrets. Judge Hendricks nodded. Mr. Carson, do you contest supervised visitation? Rothman whispered. Glenn's jaw clenched. Yes, Your Honor. I'm a good father. I love my daughter. I deserve weekends, overnight visits, shared custody. You've seen your daughter once since her birth, Thaddeus interjected. For 15 minutes, before Mrs. Carson had you removed by security. Because she wouldn't let me. Because you chose Susan Murphy and her baby. Enough! Judge Hendricks slammed her gavel. This is my courtroom. Mr. Rothman, control your client. Both lawyers nodded. Judge Hendricks looked at her notes, then at Glenn, then at Andrea. Here's what's going to happen, she said. Mrs. Carson is granted temporary full physical and legal custody. Mr. Carson is granted supervised visitation, 2 hours per week. Mr. Carson will complete parenting classes within 60 days. He will submit to drug and alcohol testing monthly, and he will pay temporary child support in the amount of $8,000 per month. $8,000. Glenn's face went purple. Your Honor, I don't have that kind of money. Then you shouldn't have spent $2 million on your mistress, Judge Hendricks said dryly. You found money for Ms. Murphy's penthouse. You'll find money for your daughter. Rothman stood. Your Honor, my client's income has been significantly impacted. He's resigned from his company. He has no employment. He didn't resign, Thaddeus corrected. He was forced out due to fraud allegations. That's not unemployment. That's consequences. Regardless, he cannot pay $8,000 per month without income. Then I suggest he find employment, Judge Hendricks said. Until then, the temporary order stands. We'll reconvene in 60 days for full custody hearing. Mr. Carson, I strongly suggest you use those 60 days to demonstrate you're capable of being a responsible parent, because right now, I'm not impressed. She banged her gavel. This hearing is adjourned. Andrea stood, feeling lightheaded. She'd won. Not completely, but enough. Glenn turned to her in the hallway, his face twisted with rage. Are you happy now? You've destroyed my life, taken my daughter, ruined my career. What else do you want? I want you to disappear, Andrea said quietly. I want to forget you exist. I'm not a fraud. I made mistakes. You forged my signature, stole money, lied to everyone. What else would you call that? I call it being human. Making bad choices when confused and overwhelmed. You weren't confused, Glenn. You knew exactly what you were doing. You just thought you'd never get caught. Rothman pulled Glenn away. My client has no further comment. Andrea watched them leave. Thaddeus put a hand on her shoulder. You did well. I feel like I'm going to throw up. That's normal. This is just the beginning. The real custody hearing in 60 days is going to be worse. Worse than this? Glenn's going to come prepared. Character witnesses. He's going to paint himself as the devoted father you're keeping from his child. I am vindictive. No, you're protecting your daughter. Thaddeus gathered his briefcase. But we need to be prepared. We need witnesses who can testify to Glenn's character. I have someone. Andrea pulled out her phone. Susan Murphy. She has 18 months of evidence. The mistress, Andrea, that's risky. She's not the mistress, she's another victim. Her testimony will show Glenn's lies weren't just about our marriage. They were about who he is as a person. Thaddeus considered. It could work, but we need more. Friends, colleagues, family. I'll find them. Andrea left the courthouse feeling oddly calm. The worst was over. Now it was just a matter of winning. Her phone buzzed. A text from Devereaux. Board voted to dissolve Carson Properties. Company assets being liquidated. Investors filing lawsuits against Glenn. Andrea stared at the message. The company they'd built was gone. She should have felt sad, should have mourned. Instead, she felt nothing but relief. Another text. Her mother. I ran into Evelyn Carson at the grocery store. She says you're destroying Glenn's life over one mistake, that you're being vindictive. Andrea, you need to be reasonable. Andrea deleted the message. A third text. Unknown number. This is Evelyn Carson. We need to talk about Grace. You're keeping my son from his daughter and it's not fair. Call me. Andrea blocked the number. She drove home in silence. She needed witnesses who could testify to Glenn's character. Documentation of every lie, every betrayal. At home, Simone was reading to Grace. How did it go? Simone asked. I won. Temporary full custody. Glenn gets supervised visits only. That's amazing. It's temporary. In 60 days there's another hearing. Glenn's going to fight harder. So will you. Andrea picked up Grace, held her close. I need you to do something, she told Simone. Anything. Make a list. Everyone we know who's seen Glenn lie, everyone who's witnessed his behavior, anyone who can testify he's not fit for unsupervised custody. That's a long list. Good, because I'm going to call every single person on it. Over the next 2 weeks, Andrea became a detective investigating her own life. She called former colleagues, asked careful questions about his behavior, his integrity. 3 admitted they'd suspected the affair. 1 saw Glenn with Susan at a restaurant 6 months before either baby was born. She called friends from their social circle, asked about charity events Glenn attended without her. 2 admitted they'd thought it was strange. 1 questioned Glenn about it and he'd gotten defensive. She called neighbors, asked if they'd ever seen strange cars. Strange women when Andrea wasn't home. 1 neighbor said yes. Saw a blonde woman leaving last spring. Glenn introduced her as his interior designer. Every conversation added to the case. Every witness built the narrative. Glenn Carson was a liar, a manipulator, someone who couldn't be trusted. Andrea documented everything, recorded phone calls with permission, saved emails and texts, built a file that would destroy Glenn's credibility. And every night she held Grace and promised her that no matter what happened, she would always be protected, always be loved, always be enough. Because Andrea had learned the hard way. Some promises were meant to be kept, and some people didn't deserve the chance to break them again. Chapter 6. The Siege. Glenn's mother appeared on Andrea's doorstep 3 weeks after the custody hearing. Andrea was feeding Grace when the doorbell rang. She checked the camera and saw Evelyn Carson standing there, perfectly coiffed in cream, holding a designer handbag. Andrea considered not answering, but Evelyn would just keep coming back. She opened the door, but didn't invite her in. Hello, Evelyn. Andrea. Evelyn's voice was cold. We need to talk about what you're doing to my son. I'm not doing anything to Glenn. I'm protecting my daughter. You're destroying him. He's lost his business, his reputation, his home, and now you won't even let him see his own child except under supervision like some criminal. He forged my signature, embezzled money, lied to everyone. Those are crimes, Evelyn. Those are mistakes. Glenn made poor choices, but he's not a bad person. He's Grace's father, and you're keeping them apart out of spite. Andrea felt rage building. I'm keeping them apart because Glenn chose to be with another woman when Grace was born, because he lied for 18 months, because I don't trust him, because of one affair. Andrea, men make mistakes. You forgive them and move on. Is that what you told yourself when Glenn's father left you? Evelyn's face went white. How dare you? Glenn's father abandoned you and Glenn when Glenn was 7, just walked out, and you raised Glenn alone, working 2 jobs, so I find it fascinating that you're telling me to forgive Glenn for doing essentially the same thing. Glenn didn't abandon you. He absolutely did. He built an entire life with another woman, proposed to her, planned a wedding, was going to abandon us completely. Evelyn's hands tightened on her handbag. Glenn loves you. Glenn loves himself. He loves the idea of having everything without consequences. 2 women, 2 families, 2 separate lives. And when it all fell apart, he played victim. He is the victim. You've taken everything. I've taken back what was mine. There's a difference. Grace is his daughter too. He has a right to see her. He sees her. 2 hours a week, supervised. That's more than he deserves. 2 hours? Andrea, that's cruel. She's an infant. She needs her father. She needs a father she can trust. Glenn hasn't earned that yet. Evelyn's composure cracked. You're poisoning that child against him. You're going to raise her to hate her own father. I'm going to raise her to value honesty, integrity, loyalty, things Glenn clearly doesn't understand. You self-righteous... Evelyn stopped herself, took a breath. I came to ask you, woman to woman, mother to mother, to please reconsider. Please give Glenn another chance. Let him be a real father to Grace. No, Andrea, no, Evelyn. Glenn made his choices. He chose Susan over me. He chose lies over truth. He chose his own desires over his family. And I'm choosing to protect my daughter from someone who's proven he can't be trusted. You're going to regret this. Glenn is going to fight you. He's going to prove he's a good father, and then you'll be the one begging for more time. Let him try. Evelyn stared at her for a long moment, then she reached into her handbag and pulled out an envelope. What's this? Andrea asked. A letter from Glenn. He wanted me to give it to you. I don't want it. Just read it, please. Andrea took the envelope but didn't open it. Is there anything else? Yes. One more thing. Evelyn's voice hardened. You think you've won. You think you've destroyed Glenn, but you're wrong. Glenn has always been resourceful. He'll rebuild. He'll find a way to prove himself, and when he does, you're going to look like the villain. I'll take my chances. Evelyn turned and walked to her car. Andrea watched her drive away, then closed the door. She looked at the envelope. Glenn's handwriting. Andrea, please read. She should throw it away, burn it. Instead, she opened it. The letter was 3 pages, handwritten. Glenn's careful script covering every line. Andrea, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I know you're angry, but I need you to understand something. I never meant to hurt you. I know that sounds hollow, but it's true. When I met Susan, I was confused about my life, about our marriage, about who I was supposed to be. She represented something new, uncomplicated, and I got caught up. I know what I did was wrong. I know I lied. I betrayed you, but I swear I never stopped loving you. Even when I was with Susan, part of me was always yours. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I don't deserve that. But I'm asking you to let me be a father to Grace. She's my daughter. I want to know her. I want to be part of her life. Please don't punish her for my mistakes. I've lost everything else, my business, my reputation, my home. Don't make me lose my daughter too. Glenn. Andrea read the letter twice. Then she tore it into pieces and threw it in the trash. He still didn't get it. Still thought this was about punishment. Still thought he was the victim. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Hello? Mrs. Carson? This is Detective Reyes with the Boston Police Department. I'm calling about the fraud case involving your husband, Glenn Carson. Andrea's heart stopped. What about it? We've completed our investigation. Based on evidence provided by your attorney and the independent auditors, we're moving forward with criminal charges. Mr. Carson is being charged with wire fraud, forgery, and embezzlement. We'll be arresting him tomorrow morning. Arresting him? Yes, ma'am. I wanted to give you advance notice in case there are safety concerns. Does Mr. Carson have access to your home? No. I had the locks changed. Good. Do you have any reason to believe he might become violent or erratic when arrested? I don't think so. Glenn's a lot of things, but he's not violent. Understood. We'll proceed with the arrest as planned. You'll be notified when he's processed. Detective Reyes hung up. Andrea stood in her living room, phone still in her hand, trying to process what she'd just heard. Glenn was going to be arrested, charged with crimes, possibly go to prison. She'd wanted him to face consequences, wanted him to pay. But prison, that seemed extreme. No, it wasn't extreme, it was justice. Glenn had committed crimes, real crimes, not just against her, but against investors, against the company, against everyone who trusted him. He deserved to be held accountable. Her phone buzzed, a text from Susan. Glenn just called me crying, said the police are going to arrest him tomorrow. Did you know about this? Andrea typed back, yes, just found out. Are you okay? I don't know. Are you? I feel weirdly guilty, like I caused this somehow. You didn't cause anything. Glenn did this to himself. He says he's going to lose everything, that he might go to prison, that his life is over. Andrea stared at the messages. His life isn't over. He's just facing consequences for the first time. He asked me to visit him after he's arrested. He says I'm the only person who still cares about him. What did you tell him? I told him no. I told him we're done, that I can't be with someone who lied about everything. Good. But I feel bad. Is that crazy? I feel bad for the man who destroyed my life. It's not crazy. It's human. You loved him. Some part of you probably still does. That doesn't go away just because he's a liar. Do you still love him? Andrea looked at the torn pieces of Glenn's letter in the trash. I don't know. I loved who I thought he was. I don't know if that person ever existed. Yeah, same. They sat in silence, two women connected by their shared destruction, both struggling with the same impossible question. How do you stop loving someone who was never real? The next morning, Andrea watched the news coverage of Glenn's arrest. He was led out in handcuffs, cameras flashing, reporters shouting questions. He looked smaller somehow, diminished, like he'd shrunk in on himself. Mr. Carson, do you have any comment? Mr. Carson, is it true you embezzled $2 million? Mr. Carson, what do you say to your wife? Glenn kept his head down, said nothing, let the officers guide him into the police car. Andrea turned off the TV. Simone was feeding Grace. You okay? I don't know. I thought seeing him arrested would make me feel better, but it just feels empty. Because revenge doesn't actually fix anything. Then what does? Time, healing, building something new. Simone looked at Grace, focusing on what matters. Andrea sat beside them, took Grace from Simone's arms. I'm terrified I'm doing the wrong thing, she whispered. What if keeping Glenn away from her is a mistake? What if she grows up resenting me? You're protecting her, that's not a mistake. But what if he changes? What if prison makes him a better person? What if I'm denying her a relationship with her father because I'm too angry to see he deserves a second chance? Andrea, listen to me. Simone gripped her sister's hand. Glenn had 18 months to make different choices, 18 months to tell you the truth, 18 months to end things with Susan. He didn't. He kept lying, kept manipulating, kept building two lives. That's not a mistake. That's a pattern, and patterns don't change just because someone gets caught. You don't know that. Yes, I do. And so do you. You've seen it in your clients. Women who go back to men who promise to change. How many times did they actually change? Andrea closed her eyes. Almost never. Exactly. So stop doubting yourself. You're doing the right thing. Andrea's phone buzzed. A text from Thaddeus. Custody hearing moved up. Judge wants to settle this before Glenn's trial. New date, 2 weeks from today. Andrea's stomach dropped. 2 weeks? I thought we had 60 days. Change of plans. Judge doesn't want custody determination delayed by criminal proceedings. We need to be ready. Andrea looked at Simone. I have 2 weeks to build an airtight case proving Glenn shouldn't have custody. Then let's get to work. For the next 2 weeks, Andrea lived in preparation mode. She met with witnesses, recorded testimonies, gathered evidence, built a case so comprehensive that Glenn wouldn't stand a chance. Devereaux testified about the financial fraud. 3 former colleagues testified about Glenn's pattern of deception. 2 neighbors testified about seeing Susan at the house when Andrea wasn't home, and Susan agreed to testify, to tell the court everything. The lies Glenn told her, the promises he made, the life he built with her while still married to Andrea. By the time the custody hearing arrived, Andrea had a file 3 inches thick. She was ready. Glenn didn't stand a chance. Chapter 7. The Testimony. The courtroom was smaller for the custody hearing, more intimate, just Judge Hendricks, Andrea, Glenn, their attorneys, and the witnesses waiting in the hall. Glenn looked terrible. 2 weeks in county jail pending his fraud trial had aged him. His suit was wrinkled, his face gaunt, his eyes hollow. Andrea felt a flicker of something that might have been pity. She killed it immediately. Judge Hendricks reviewed the files. We're here for a permanent custody determination regarding Grace Isabella Carson. Mrs. Carson, I understand you have witnesses. Yes, Your Honor. 7 witnesses who can speak to Mr. Carson's character and his fitness as a parent. Mr. Carson, do you have witnesses? Glenn's attorney, Rothman, stood. Yes, Your Honor. We have 5 witnesses prepared to testify to Mr. Carson's devotion to his daughter and his commitment to being a good father. Very well. Mrs. Carson, call your first witness. Thaddeus stood. The petitioner calls Devereaux Ashford. Devereaux took the stand, was sworn in, and settled into the witness chair with practiced ease. Mr. Ashford, how do you know Glenn Carson? I was his business partner for 8 years. We built Carson Properties together. And during those 8 years, did you observe Mr. Carson's behavior both professionally and personally? Yes. Can you describe that behavior for the court? Devereaux looked at Glenn, then away. Glenn was charming, ambitious. He knew how to make people trust him. But over time, I began to notice discrepancies. Money that didn't add up. Meetings he said he attended but hadn't. Lies about where he was and what he was doing. Did you confront him about these discrepancies? Yes, multiple times. He always had an explanation, always made it sound reasonable. I wanted to believe him. When did you discover the extent of his deception? When Andrea called me from the hospital. When she told me about Susan. I started digging deeper into the financials, and I found $2 million missing, forged signatures, fake expense reports. Glenn had been systematically stealing from the company. And did you report this to the authorities? Yes, I provided all documentation to the police and to Andrea's divorce attorney. Rothman stood for cross-examination. Mr. Ashford, you and Mr. Carson had a falling out, didn't you? A business disagreement. We had a disagreement about his fraud, yes. But prior to that, you benefited financially from Mr. Carson's work, correct? The company was profitable? It was profitable until Glenn stole $2 million and destroyed our reputation. No further questions. Thaddeus called the next witness, and the next, each one adding another layer to the case against Glenn. A neighbor who'd seen Susan at the house, a colleague who'd witnessed Glenn lie to clients, a friend who'd questioned his behavior at social events. By the time Andrea's 7th witness finished, Glenn looked like he'd been physically beaten. Then Thaddeus called Susan Murphy. The courtroom went silent as Susan entered. She was wearing a simple blue dress, no makeup, her blonde hair pulled back. She looked young and terrified. Ms. Murphy, please state your relationship to Glenn Carson. Susan's voice was barely a whisper. I was his girlfriend for 18 months. I had his baby. And during those 18 months, what did Mr. Carson tell you about his marital status? He said he was divorced, that his ex-wife was unstable and refused to finalize paperwork. He said they'd been separated for 3 years. Did you believe him? Yes. He showed me an apartment and said it was his. He introduced me to his business partners. He spent holidays with my family. Everything supported the story. I had no reason not to believe him. When did you discover the truth? Susan's eyes filled with tears. At the hospital. When I was 6 hours postpartum and Andrea showed up. When I realized Glenn had been lying about everything. How did that make you feel? Devastated, humiliated, betrayed. I thought I was building a life with someone who loved me. Instead, I was the other woman in a marriage I didn't even know existed. And has Mr. Carson demonstrated any remorse for his behavior? No. He's called me multiple times asking me to support him, asking me to testify that he's a good father, but he's never once apologized for lying to me. Rothman's cross-examination was brutal. Ms. Murphy, you admit you had an affair with a married man, correct? I didn't know he was married. But you knew he had a wife, didn't you? He told you about her, the ex-wife who wouldn't sign papers? I thought she was his ex. Did you ever ask to see divorce papers? Did you ever verify his story? Susan's face flushed. No, I trusted him. So you took the word of a man you'd known for only a few months and entered into a relationship with him without any verification? Yes. And you got pregnant by this man? Yes. Despite the fact that he was still allegedly going through a divorce and your relationship was relatively new. I didn't plan to get pregnant, it just happened. But you chose to continue the pregnancy and build a life with this man, correct? Yes. So you made a series of choices based on information you never bothered to verify. And now you're here testifying against Mr. Carson because you're angry he lied to you. I'm testifying because what he did was wrong. To me and to Andrea. No further questions. Susan left the stand in tears. Andrea watched her go and felt a strange kinship. They'd both been fooled by the same man, both believed the same lies. Rothman called his witnesses next. Glenn's mother, Evelyn, took the stand and painted Glenn as a devoted son who'd made mistakes but deserved a chance to be a father. Glenn loves that baby, Evelyn said firmly. He talks about her constantly. He wants to be in her life. Andrea is keeping them apart out of spite. Thaddeus's cross-examination was surgical. Mrs. Carson, when was the last time your son visited you? I don't see how that's relevant. Please answer the question. Evelyn's lips thinned. About 6 months ago. 6 months? And how often did he call you during his affair with Miss Murphy? I don't know. Maybe once a month. Once a month. Yet he told Andrea and Susan both that he was desperately worried about your health, that you'd had a stroke, that you needed him. Were you sick, Mrs. Carson? No. So your son lied about your health to cover up his affair. He was trying to protect everyone, by lying to everyone, including you. Evelyn had no response. The other witnesses were equally ineffective. A friend who'd known Glenn for years but admitted she hadn't seen him much lately. A business acquaintance who said Glenn was always professional but couldn't speak to his personal life. By the end of the day, it was clear. Andrea was going to win. Judge Hendricks called a recess to review the testimony. When she returned, her expression was grim. I've heard enough. Mr. Carson, stand please. Glenn stood, his whole body shaking. Mr. Carson, I'm going to be blunt with you. In my 30 years on this bench, I've rarely seen such a clear case of parental unfitness. You abandoned your wife during labor. You missed your daughter's birth. You lied to everyone involved, including the mother of your other child. You committed fraud, embezzlement, and forgery. And even now, you show no genuine remorse, only self-pity. Glenn opened his mouth. Judge Hendricks held up a hand. I'm not finished. Mrs. Carson has demonstrated she is a fit and capable parent. She has provided for her daughter, protected her daughter, made difficult decisions in her daughter's best interest. You, on the other hand, have demonstrated only that you're capable of lying and manipulating. Your Honor, I love my daughter. Love is not enough, Mr. Carson. Love requires honesty, sacrifice, putting someone else's needs before your own. You've done none of those things. Judge Hendricks looked at her notes, then at Andrea. I'm granting Mrs. Carson full physical and legal custody of Grace Isabella Carson. Mr. Carson will be permitted supervised visitation 2 hours per month, pending completion of parenting classes and 6 months of demonstrated stability. Child support is set at $10,000 per month. Glenn's face crumpled. 2 hours a month? Your Honor, please. My decision is final. If you demonstrate you're capable of being a responsible parent over the next 6 months, we can revisit visitation. But until then, Mrs. Carson has sole custody. She banged her gavel. Andrea sat perfectly still, trying to process what had just happened. She'd won. Complete custody. Glenn would barely see Grace. She should have felt triumphant, vindicated. Instead, she just felt tired. Thaddeus squeezed her shoulder. You did it. I know. Outside the courtroom, Glenn was waiting in the hallway. His mother was with him, both looking shattered. Andrea, please, Glenn said, please reconsider. I know I made mistakes, but I'm still her father. She needs me. No, Glenn, you need her. There's a difference. I can change. I can be better. Just give me a chance. Andrea looked at him, really looked at him, saw the desperation, the fear, the genuine belief that he deserved another chance. You had chances, Glenn. You had 18 months of chances. You chose to keep lying. I was confused. You were selfish. You wanted everything without having to choose. And now you have nothing. She turned to leave. Andrea, wait. Please, I'm begging you. Let me be part of Grace's life. She stopped, looked back at him. You get 2 hours a month, supervised. If you can prove you're trustworthy, maybe we can revisit. But right now, you haven't earned more than that. How am I supposed to prove I'm trustworthy if you won't give me a chance? The same way I proved I was strong enough to survive your betrayal, one day at a time, making better choices, showing up when it matters. Andrea walked away, leaving Glenn and his mother in the hallway. Simone was waiting outside with Grace. How did it go? Full custody. Glenn gets 2 hours a month. Simone hugged her fiercely. You did it. Why don't I feel better? Because winning doesn't undo the damage. It just means you get to decide what comes next. Andrea took Grace from Simone's arms, held her close. What comes next is us, she whispered to her daughter. Just us. Building a life without lies, without betrayal, without him. Grace made a small cooing sound. It wasn't triumph Andrea felt as she carried her daughter to the car. It was relief. The war was over. Now she just had to figure out how to build a peace. Chapter 8. The Aftermath. 3 months after the custody hearing, Andrea's life had settled into a new rhythm. Grace was sitting up now, grabbing at everything, her personality emerging more each day. She had Glenn's eyes, but Andrea's determination. Already at 6 months old, she knew what she wanted and wasn't afraid to demand it. Andrea had restarted her law practice from the ground up. Not civil rights this time, family law, representing women going through divorces, women who'd been lied to, betrayed, women who needed someone who understood exactly what they were facing. Her first client was a woman whose husband had been living with his secretary for 2 years. The second was a woman whose husband had emptied their bank accounts and fled to Mexico. The third was a woman whose husband had been cheating with her sister. Andrea won every case. Word spread. Her practice grew. Within 3 months, she had more clients than she could handle and was hiring associates. She was building something real, something that mattered. Glenn was in prison awaiting trial. His bail had been revoked after he violated the terms by attempting to contact Andrea through intermediaries. He'd be in county jail for at least another 6 months before the fraud trial. He'd sent letters, dozens of them, all variations on the same theme. He was sorry, he'd changed, he wanted another chance. Andrea read none of them. She had them forwarded directly to Thaddeus, who documented each one for the record. Susan had moved back to Vermont with her son. She'd sent Andrea a card with a photo. Thank you for helping me see the truth. We're both better off without him. Andrea had put the photo on her fridge, A reminder that sometimes the people who hurt you can also help you heal, even if that was never their intention. The social media storm had died down. Boston society had moved on to newer scandals. Andrea's name was no longer trending. The whispers had faded. But the damage remained. Friends who'd disappeared when the scandal broke hadn't come back. Colleagues who'd distanced themselves stayed distant. The perfect life she'd built was gone, and in its place was something smaller, quieter, more honest. Andrea was sitting in her new office, a modest space in Cambridge, nothing like the marble palace of her old firm, when Simone called. "Turn on the news." "Why? What happened?" "Just turn it on." Andrea pulled up the news on her computer. The headline made her stomach drop. Boston developer Glenn Carson found guilty on all counts. The trial had ended. The jury had deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty of wire fraud, guilty of embezzlement, guilty of forgery. Sentencing would be in 2 weeks. He was facing up to 15 years. Andrea stared at the screen, feeling nothing. "You okay?" Simone asked. "I don't know. I thought I'd feel something, relief, vindication, something, but I just feel empty. Because it doesn't change what happened. It doesn't give you back the 6 years you spent with a liar." "No, it doesn't." "Are you going to the sentencing?" Andrea considered. "Should I?" "I don't know. Do you want closure?" "I don't think closure exists. I think there's just moving forward." But when the sentencing day arrived, Andrea found herself in the courtroom anyway. She sat in the back row, holding Grace, watching as Glenn was led in wearing an orange jumpsuit. He looked worse than he had at the custody hearing. Prison had hollowed him out, made him smaller. His eyes found hers across the courtroom. He mouthed something. Maybe, "I'm sorry." Maybe, "Please help me." Andrea couldn't tell. She looked away. The prosecutor spoke first, outlining Glenn's crimes in brutal detail. The lies, the theft, the manipulation, the victims. "Glenn Carson is a con artist, Your Honor. He convinced his wife he loved her while building a life with another woman. He convinced his business partners he was trustworthy while stealing $2 million. He deserves the maximum sentence." Rothman, Glenn's defense attorney, tried to paint a sympathetic picture. "My client made terrible mistakes, Your Honor. He's deeply remorseful. He's lost everything. His business, his marriage, his reputation, access to his daughter. He's already paying a heavy price. Prison will destroy what little he has left." Judge Hendricks, the same judge who'd presided over the custody hearing, looked at Glenn with undisguised contempt. "Mr. Carson, do you have anything to say before I impose sentence?" Glenn stood. His hands were shaking. "Your Honor, I know I did terrible things. I know I hurt people. I hurt my wife. I hurt Susan. I hurt my business partners and investors. I hurt everyone who trusted me." His voice cracked. "I don't have an excuse. I was selfish. I wanted everything and I didn't care who I had to lie to." He glanced at Andrea. "I destroyed the best thing in my life because I was too stupid to appreciate what I had. And I'll regret that every day for the rest of my life. But I love my daughter, I love Grace, and I'm begging you, please don't take away my chance to know her. Please don't send me to prison for so long that she won't remember me when I get out." Judge Hendricks let the silence stretch. Then she spoke. "Mr. Carson, I appreciate your statement of remorse. But remorse doesn't undo the harm you've caused. It doesn't return the $2 million you stole. It doesn't erase the lies you told. And it doesn't guarantee you won't do it again. Your Honor, I swear I'll never—" "You swore to love and cherish your wife. You swore to be honest with your business partners. You swore to uphold the law when you signed legal documents. Your promises mean nothing, Mr. Carson." Glenn's shoulders sagged. "For the crime of wire fraud, I sentence you to 8 years in federal prison. For the crime of embezzlement, 6 years, to run concurrently. For forgery, 3 years, to run concurrently. Total sentence, 8 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release." Glenn's knees buckled. The guards caught him before he fell. "You'll be eligible for parole after serving 5 years, provided you demonstrate genuine rehabilitation. I strongly suggest you use that time to become someone worthy of your daughter's respect. Judge Hendricks banged her gavel. This court is adjourned. Andrea sat frozen as they led Glenn away. He turned back one last time, his eyes finding hers, pleading wordlessly for something she couldn't give him. Forgiveness, understanding, a promise that she'd wait. She gave him nothing. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Mrs. Carson, how do you feel about the sentence? Mrs. Carson, will you let your daughter visit her father in prison? Mrs. Carson, do you think justice was served? Andrea kept walking, Grace held tight against her chest, Simone running interference with the cameras. They made it to the car. Andrea buckled Grace into her seat, hands shaking so badly she could barely manage the straps. 8 years, Simone said quietly. He'll be out when Grace is 8. If he gets parole, if he behaves, if he does everything right. Will you let her visit him? Andrea looked at her daughter, who was cooing happily in her car seat, oblivious to the fact that her father had just been sent to prison. I don't know. Maybe when she's older, maybe when she can understand what happened and make her own choice about whether she wants a relationship with him. That's fair. Is it? Or am I just punishing him more? Andrea, you're protecting her. That's not punishment, that's parenting. They drove home in silence. Inside the townhouse, Andrea's townhouse now, legally and officially, she fed Grace, bathed her, put her to bed. Then she sat in the nursery and cried for the first time since the hospital. Not for Glenn, not for their marriage, but for Grace, who would grow up without a father because he'd been too selfish to be the man they needed. Her phone buzzed. A text from Evelyn. I hope you're happy. You've destroyed my son's life. Grace will grow up knowing her mother sent her father to prison. Andrea stared at the message. Then she typed back, Grace will grow up knowing her father made choices that sent him to prison. I didn't put him there. He did that himself. And if you can't see that, then you're as delusional as he is. She blocked Evelyn's number. Another text. This one from Devereux. Saw the news. Are you okay? Define okay. Fair point. Want to grab coffee sometime? Not business, just checking in. Andrea considered. Devereux had been honest with her from the beginning, had given her the evidence she needed, had stood by her when most of Glenn's associates had scattered. Coffee sounds good. Thursday? It's a date. Well, not a date. You know what I mean. Andrea smiled despite herself. I know what you mean. She put her phone away and went to check on Grace one more time. Her daughter was sleeping peacefully, one tiny fist curled near her face, her breathing steady and calm. Your daddy's going to prison, Andrea whispered, and someday you're going to ask me why, and I'm going to tell you the truth. All of it, about the lies and the betrayal and the choices he made. But I'm also going to tell you that you're not responsible for his mistakes, that you're your own person, that you get to decide who you want to be. Grace stirred but didn't wake. And I'm going to raise you to be honest, loyal, someone who keeps their promises. Everything your father couldn't be. Andrea left the nursery and walked downstairs, poured herself a glass of wine she wouldn't drink, sat on the couch in the quiet house. 8 years. Grace would be in 2nd grade when Glenn got out. She'd have lost her front teeth, learned to read, made friends, built a life, and Glenn would have missed all of it. Andrea waited for the satisfaction to come, the sense that justice had been served. Instead, she just felt tired. Tired of fighting, tired of being angry, tired of carrying the weight of someone else's betrayal. Tomorrow, she'd start letting go, start healing, start building the life she wanted instead of mourning the life she'd lost. But tonight, she'd let herself be tired. Tomorrow could wait. Chapter 9. The Reconstruction. 2 years later, Andrea stood in front of a full courtroom and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Pride. Not in winning a case, though she'd won this one too. Pride in who she'd become. Her law practice had grown beyond anything she'd imagined. 7 associates now, 3 paralegals, an office manager, a waiting list of clients that stretched months. Andrea Carson had become the attorney women called when their lives fell apart, when their husbands lied, when their perfect marriages turned out to be elaborate fictions. She specialized in high-conflict divorces, men who tried to hide assets, men who lied about income, men who thought they could manipulate the system the way they'd manipulated their wives. Andrea destroyed every single one of them. She'd just finished a case where the husband had been funneling money to offshore accounts for 3 years. Told his wife they were broke, told the court he had no assets. Andrea found the money, found the accounts, found the paper trail he'd tried to erase. The wife got 70% of everything, full custody of their kids, and the satisfaction of watching her ex-husband realize he'd underestimated the wrong woman. After the hearing, the wife hugged Andrea with tears streaming down her face. "Thank you. Thank you for believing me when everyone else said I was crazy." "You're not crazy," Andrea said firmly. "You were lied to by someone you trusted. That's not your fault." The woman left. Andrea gathered her files. Devereaux was waiting outside the courtroom. They'd been seeing each other for 6 months now. Nothing serious. Just coffee dates that turned into dinner dates that turned into sleepovers when Grace was with Simone. He was kind, honest, divorced himself after his wife had an affair. He understood betrayal, understood trust issues, understood why Andrea kept him at arm's length even when he was holding her. "Another win?" he asked. "Another win. You're terrifying in court. I'm glad I'm on your side." Andrea smiled. "I'm glad you are too." They walked to her car. Andrea checked her phone. A text from Simone with a photo of Grace at the playground, grinning with chocolate ice cream all over her face. Grace was 2.5 now, talking in full sentences, asking questions about everything, growing into a person with opinions and preferences and a stubborn streak that reminded Andrea of herself. She asked about her daddy sometimes, where he was, why he wasn't here. Andrea answered honestly but carefully. Daddy made some bad choices. He hurt people. So he has to be away for a while. When is he coming back? Not for a long time, baby. But that's okay. We're okay without him. Grace had accepted this easily. She was too young to understand what she was missing, too young to know that other kids had fathers who tucked them in at night. Maybe that was better. Maybe not knowing was a kindness. Glenn had written letters from prison, one every week for the first year, then one a month. Then they'd stopped entirely. Andrea read none of them, but she kept them, locked them in a safe deposit box. For Grace, when she was older, so she could decide for herself what kind of relationship she wanted with her father, if she wanted one at all. "You're thinking about him," Devereaux said quietly. "How did you know? You get this look, far away, like you're somewhere else." "Sorry. Don't apologize. He was your husband for 6 years. You don't just forget that." "I want to forget it. I know. But maybe forgetting isn't the answer. Maybe just learning to carry it differently is." Andrea looked at him. "When did you get so wise?" "Around the time my ex-wife told me she'd been sleeping with my brother for 2 years. Betrayal either destroys you or teaches you. I chose teaching." They reached Andrea's car. Devereaux kissed her softly. "Dinner tomorrow?" "Grace has a play date. Can we make it Friday?" "Friday works." He left. Andrea drove to Simone's to pick up Grace. Her daughter ran to her shrieking with joy. "Mama! Mama! I went on the swings! So high!" Andrea scooped her up, breathing in the scent of her, chocolate and sunscreen and pure innocence. "Did you have fun with Auntie Simone?" "Yes! Can we go again tomorrow?" "We'll see." On the drive home, Grace chattered about her day. The swings, the slide, the dog she saw that was so big, Mama, so big. Andrea listened, half her mind on the case she had tomorrow. A woman whose husband was claiming she was an unfit mother because she worked too much. Andrea would destroy him. She was good at that now. They got home. Andrea made dinner, grilled cheese and tomato soup, Grace's favorite, gave her a bath, read her 3 stories, tucked her in. "Mama?" "Yes, baby." "Are you sad?" Andrea paused. "Why do you ask that? You look sad sometimes. when you don't think I'm looking. Andrea's throat tightened. I'm not sad, sweetheart. I'm just thinking. About what? About how much I love you, about how lucky I am to be your mama. Grace considered this. I love you too. You're the best mama. You're the best daughter. Even when I don't listen. Even then. Grace smiled and closed her eyes. Within minutes, she was asleep. Andrea went downstairs and poured the glass of wine she'd stopped pouring 2 years ago. Actually drank it this time. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Hello? Andrea? It's Evelyn. Andrea's whole body tensed. What do you want? I'm calling about Glenn. He's been denied parole. Okay. Okay? That's all you have to say? He has to serve the full 8 years now. He won't get out until Grace is 6 years old. I know how math works, Evelyn. Don't you care? He's your daughter's father. He's missing her entire childhood. He made choices that led to that. I didn't put him in prison. He put himself there. You could speak to the parole board. Tell them he's changed. That he deserves another chance. Why would I do that? For Grace, so she can have her father. Andrea's patience snapped. Grace has everything she needs. She has a mother who loves her, an aunt who adores her, stability, honesty, security. What she doesn't need is a father who's proven he can't be trusted. He's changed, Andrea. I visited him. He's different. He's remorseful. He's taking classes. He's trying to be better. Good for him, but that doesn't mean I have to help him. You're so cold, so unforgiving. No wonder Glenn looked elsewhere. The words hit like a slap. Andrea felt rage surge through her veins. Don't you dare blame me for Glenn's choices. He didn't cheat because I was cold. He cheated because he's selfish, because he wanted everything without having to choose, because he thought he could get away with it. You're keeping Grace from her father out of spite. I'm keeping Grace safe. There's a difference. And until you can understand that, we have nothing to talk about. Andrea hung up, blocked the number. Again. She drank her wine in angry gulps, poured another glass. Her phone buzzed. A text from Devereux. Everything okay? You seem off. Glenn's mother just called. He was denied parole. And she thinks it's my fault. Thinks I should speak on his behalf. Are you going to? Andrea stared at the message, typed back. No. He made his bed. He can lie in it. Good. Want me to come over? Andrea looked around her empty living room, at the life she'd built from the ashes of her marriage. Not tonight. I need to be alone. Understood. Call me if you change your mind. Andrea set down her phone, finished her wine, sat in the silence. 2 years since the hospital, 2 years since her perfect life had shattered. 2 years of rebuilding. She'd thought the anger would fade. That time would soften the edges of betrayal. Instead, it had crystallized into something harder, something permanent. She wasn't angry at Glenn anymore. She was indifferent, and somehow that felt worse. Chapter 10. The Reckoning. Grace was 6 years old when Glenn was released from prison. Andrea got the notification from the Victim Services Coordinator. Glenn Carson had served his full sentence. He'd been released with 3 years of supervised probation. She read the email twice, then deleted it. Grace was in 1st grade now, reading chapter books, playing soccer, making friends, building a life that had never included her father. She still asked about him sometimes, less now than when she was younger. Where's my daddy? He's away, sweetie. He made mistakes and has to fix them. When will I meet him? Someday, when you're ready. Grace had accepted this. She had Devereux now. Not a father, but a kind man who showed up to her soccer games and read her bedtime stories when he stayed over. She had Simone. She had friends and teachers and a whole world that didn't include Glenn Carson. Andrea had thought she'd feel something when Glenn got out. Fear, maybe. Anxiety about what he'd do. Instead, she felt nothing. 3 weeks after his release, Glenn requested a modification hearing. He wanted increased visitation, wanted to rebuild his relationship with Grace. Andrea's attorney, still Thaddeus, filed an opposition. He served 8 years, he's completed his sentence, but that doesn't automatically make him fit to parent. The hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning. Andrea dressed carefully. Black suit, hair pulled back, the armor she wore to court. Grace was at school. She had no idea her father was out of prison. Andrea would tell her eventually, when the time was right. The courtroom was different this time, smaller, less formal. Just Andrea, Glenn, their attorneys, and Judge Hendricks, now in her 70s but still presiding, still sharp as a blade. Glenn looked different. Prison had aged him. His hair was grey at the temples, his face was lined, he'd lost weight. He looked like a man who'd learned hard lessons. He didn't look at Andrea when he entered, kept his eyes down, humble, contrite. Judge Hendricks reviewed the files. "Mr. Carson, I see you've completed your sentence, you've taken parenting classes, you've maintained employment since your release, you're requesting increased visitation with your daughter." "Yes, Your Honor." Glenn's voice was quiet. "I've spent 8 years thinking about what I did, about the person I was. I've worked hard to become someone better, someone worthy of my daughter's time." "And what makes you think you're worthy now?" "I can't prove it with words, Your Honor. I can only prove it with actions, but I'm asking for the chance to try." Thaddeus stood. "Your Honor, Mr. Carson has been out of prison for less than a month. He's been out of Grace's life for her entire existence. She doesn't know him. She doesn't remember him. Forcing a relationship now would be traumatic for her." "I'm not forcing anything," Glenn said. "I just want to know my daughter. I want her to know me." Judge Hendricks looked at Andrea. "Mrs. Carson, what are your concerns?" Andrea stood. She'd rehearsed this, practiced in the mirror. But now, facing Glenn after 6 years, the words felt different. "Your Honor, my concern is that Glenn hasn't changed. Not really. He's learned to say the right things, to appear remorseful, but I don't trust that it's real." "Why not?" "Because he fooled me for 6 years. He convinced everyone, me, his mother, his business partners, Susan, that he was someone he wasn't. He's very good at performing, at being whoever people need him to be, and I won't subject my daughter to someone who might be performing again." Glenn flinched. "Andrea, I'm not performing. I've changed. I've had 8 years to think about what I did, about who I hurt. I'm not that person anymore." "Prove it." "How? How am I supposed to prove I've changed if you won't give me a chance?" "The same way I proved I could survive without you, one day at a time, making better choices, showing up when it matters." Judge Hendricks held up a hand. "I've heard enough. Here's what's going to happen. Mr. Carson, I'm granting you supervised visitation, 4 hours per month, at a location of Mrs. Carson's choosing. A therapist will be present to assess Grace's comfort level and emotional well-being." 4 hours? Glenn's voice cracked. "Your Honor, that's barely anything." "It's more than you had a month ago, and it's more than you deserve after missing 6 years of her life. You want more time with your daughter? Earn it. Show up. Be consistent. Prove you're not the man who abandoned his pregnant wife." She looked at Andrea. "Mrs. Carson, I expect you to facilitate these visits in good faith. No interference. No poisoning Grace against her father. She deserves the chance to know him." "I understand, Your Honor." "Good. We'll reconvene in 6 months. If Mr. Carson has demonstrated he's reliable and Grace is comfortable, we can discuss increased visitation. Until then, 4 hours per month, supervised." She banged her gavel. Outside the courtroom, Glenn approached Andrea cautiously. "Thank you for not fighting this completely. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it for Grace. She deserves to make her own choice about whether she wants you in her life." "I know, and I'm grateful." He paused. "How is she? What's she like?" Andrea considered not answering, but something in Glenn's face, genuine longing maybe, or genuine regret, made her relent. "She's smart, funny, stubborn. She loves soccer and books and asking questions about everything. She's kind to other kids. She stands up for herself. She's everything good that came from us." Glenn's eyes filled with tears. "I've missed so much." "Yes, You have. Can I see a picture? Andrea pulled out her phone, showed him the most recent photo. Grace at her soccer game, covered in mud, grinning with missing front teeth. Glenn stared at the photo like it was the most precious thing in the world. She's beautiful. She is. Does she know about me? She knows you exist. She knows you made mistakes. She doesn't know the details. I'll tell her when she's older. What will you tell her? Andrea looked at him, really looked at him, saw the wreckage prison had made of the man she'd married. The truth, that you were someone I loved, that you made terrible choices, that you hurt a lot of people, but that you're still her father, and she gets to decide what that means. Glenn nodded slowly. That's fair. When do you want to schedule the first visit? As soon as possible. I'll talk to Grace this weekend. Prepare her. Then we'll set something up for next week. Thank you, Andrea, for giving me this chance. I'm not giving you anything, Glenn. I'm giving Grace the option. Don't make me regret it. She walked away before he could respond. That night, Andrea sat Grace down after dinner. Sweetheart, I need to talk to you about something important. Grace looked up from her coloring book. Am I in trouble? No, baby, nothing like that. Andrea took a breath. You know how I've told you that your daddy is away, that he made mistakes. Yeah. Well, he's back now, and he wants to meet you. Grace's eyes went wide. My daddy? I have a daddy. You've always had a daddy. He just hasn't been here. Why not? Because of those mistakes I told you about. He had to go away for a long time, but now he's back and he'd like to see you. Grace considered this. Do I have to see him? Only if you want to. It's completely your choice. What's he like? Andrea chose her words carefully. I don't know what he's like now. He's been gone a long time, but when I knew him, he could be very kind and very charming. He made people laugh. He made them feel special. Did he make you feel special? Once, a long time ago. Do you still love him? The question hit Andrea like a physical blow. No, sweetheart, I don't. Then why should I meet him? Because he's your father, and everyone deserves the chance to know their parents, even if those parents made mistakes. Grace went back to coloring. Okay, I'll meet him. But only if you're there. I'll be there. I promise. The first visit was scheduled at a family therapy center. Andrea, Grace, Glenn, and a child psychologist named Marianne. Grace clung to Andrea's hand as they walked in. She'd dressed carefully that morning, her favorite purple dress, her hair in 2 braids. Glenn was already there. He'd brought a stuffed animal, a purple elephant. Hi, Grace, he said softly. I'm your dad. Grace stared at him. You look different than your picture. What picture? The one in Mama's wedding album. You look older. Glenn laughed, but it sounded broken. I am older, a lot older. Grace walked closer, studying him. You have my eyes. You have my eyes, Glenn corrected gently. I had them first. That's not how it works. I'm younger, so I got them first. Glenn looked at Andrea, bewildered. Andrea shrugged. She's very literal. Marianne guided them through the session, asking Grace questions, asking Glenn questions, watching their interactions. Grace was cautious at first, but Glenn was patient. He didn't push, didn't demand hugs or affection. Just talked to her like she was a person, asked about school, about soccer, about her favorite books. By the end of the 4 hours, Grace was showing him her drawings, telling him about her best friend Emma, laughing at his terrible jokes. When it was time to leave, Grace hugged him goodbye. Andrea watched from across the room, feeling something she couldn't name. Not anger, not satisfaction, something softer, something like hope. Over the next 6 months, the visits continued. 4 hours a month became 6, then 8. Grace warmed to Glenn slowly, but she warmed. He never missed a visit, never showed up late, never made promises he couldn't keep. He was learning, finally, how to be a father. At the 6-month review hearing, Marianne testified that Grace was thriving, that the visits were positive, that Glenn had shown genuine care and consistency. Judge Hendricks granted increased visitation, 8 hours per month, still supervised, but with the possibility of unsupervised visits in another 6 months if the progress continued. Glenn cried when the judge announced the decision, actual tears streaming down his face. "Thank you," he whispered to Andrea as they left the courtroom. "Thank you for giving me this chance." Andrea looked at him. "I didn't do it for you. I did it for Grace." "I know, but still, thank you." 2 years after Glenn's release, Andrea sat in her office reviewing a new case when Devereaux called. "Have dinner with me tonight." "Can't. Grace has a recital." "Tomorrow then?" "Maybe. I'll check my calendar." "Andrea," his voice was serious, "we need to talk." Her stomach dropped. "About what?" "About us. About where this is going. Can it wait? It's been 2 years. I think I've been patient enough." They met at a quiet restaurant. Devereaux ordered wine. Andrea stuck with water. "I love you," he said without preamble. "I've loved you for a year now, maybe longer." Andrea set down her glass. "Devereaux, I'm not asking you to marry me. I know you're not ready for that. Maybe you'll never be ready. But I need to know if you see a future with me, or if I'm just someone safe while you heal from Glenn. You're not just someone safe. Then what am I?" Andrea looked at this kind, patient man who'd waited for her to be whole again, who'd never pushed, never demanded, never lied. "You're someone I care about, deeply. You're someone Grace adores. You're someone who makes me feel like maybe I could trust again. But I'm terrified. I was so sure about Glenn, so convinced he was perfect, and I was completely wrong. How do I trust my judgment again?" "You don't trust your judgment. You trust mine. You trust that I'm showing you exactly who I am. No performance, no hidden life, just me." "How can I be sure?" "You can't. That's what trust is. Choosing to believe anyway." Andrea closed her eyes. I want to believe this is real." "Then believe it." She opened her eyes, looked at him, really looked. "I love you too," she whispered. "I'm terrified to say it, but I love you too." Devereaux smiled, reached across the table, took her hand. "Then that's enough. For now, that's enough." 3 years after Glenn's release, Andrea stood in Judge Hendricks' courtroom one final time. Glenn was petitioning for unsupervised visitation, weekend visits, holiday time, a real co-parenting relationship. Grace was 9 now, old enough to have opinions, old enough to testify if needed. But she didn't need to testify, because Andrea wasn't fighting the petition. "Your Honor," she said when asked for her position, "I believe Glenn has earned the right to have more time with Grace. He's been consistent, reliable, present. He's proven he's changed." Glenn stared at her in shock. Judge Hendricks looked equally surprised. "Mrs. Carson, are you certain?" "I am. Grace loves her father, and he's shown over 3 years that he's capable of being the parent she deserves. I'm not asking for joint custody. Grace's primary residence should remain with me, but I think unsupervised visitation is appropriate." Glenn's attorney could barely contain his excitement. "Your Honor, we're grateful." "I'm not doing this for you," Andrea interrupted, looking at Glenn. "I'm doing this for Grace, because she's asked for more time with you, because she trusts you. So don't make her regret it." "I won't," Glenn said. "I swear, Andrea, I won't." Judge Hendricks granted the petition. Unsupervised visitation, 1 weekend per month, alternating holidays, summer vacation time. After the hearing, Glenn approached Andrea one last time. "I don't know how to thank you." "Don't thank me, just keep showing up, keep being honest, keep choosing her first." "I will." "Andrea, I want you to know, I'm sorry for everything. I know I've said it before, but I mean it. I destroyed the best thing in my life because I was too stupid to appreciate it. I know. Can you ever forgive me?" Andrea considered the question, thought about the 6 years of lies, the betrayal, the pain, the destruction. "I don't know if I can forgive you, Glenn, but I can let go of the anger. I can choose to move forward instead of staying stuck in what happened, for Grace and for myself." That's more than I deserve. Yes, it is. She turned to leave. Andrea, Glenn called after her. Are you happy? Now? With your life? She stopped, thought about her practice, her daughter, Deborah, the life she'd rebuilt from ashes. Yes, she said. I'm happy. Finally. Good. You deserve to be happy. Andrea walked out of the courthouse for the last time. The sun was shining, spring was blooming. Grace would be out of school in an hour. She'd pick her up. They'd get ice cream. They'd go home to the life they'd built together, a life without lies, without betrayal, without the weight of someone else's choices crushing them. Grace was waiting by the school entrance when Andrea pulled up. How did it go? Grace asked, climbing into the car. Your dad gets to have you for weekends now. No more supervisors. Really? Grace's face lit up. That's awesome. He promised to teach me to fish, and he said we could go to the aquarium. That sounds great, baby. Are you okay with it? With me spending more time with him? Andrea looked at her daughter, this brave, brilliant girl who'd grown up without a father and had somehow forgiven him anyway. I'm okay with it. Are you? Yeah. I like Dad. He's kind of dorky, but he tries really hard, and he always listens when I talk. That's good. That's what fathers should do. They drove home in comfortable silence. Grace chatted about her day. Andrea listened, half her mind on dinner plans, half on the case she had tomorrow. At home, Deborah was waiting on the porch with takeout. Figured you wouldn't feel like cooking, he said. Grace squealed and ran to hug him. Dev, did you bring spring rolls? Would I forget your spring rolls? They ate dinner together, the three of them. A family, maybe, or something close to it. After Grace went to bed, Andrea and Devereaux sat on the couch with wine. How do you feel? He asked. About Glenn getting more time? Surprisingly okay. He's earned it, and Grace wants it. That's what matters. You've come a long way. We both have. He kissed her softly. I'm proud of you. For letting go. For moving forward. I'm proud of me too. Later, alone in bed, Andrea thought about the woman she'd been 6 years ago, the one who'd stood in a hospital nursery watching her perfect life shatter. That woman had been destroyed, but from her ashes, this woman had risen, stronger, wiser, more careful with her trust, but also more generous with her forgiveness. She'd built a life worth living, a practice worth fighting for, a daughter worth everything. Glenn had taken 6 years from her, but she'd taken them back, reclaimed them, made them into something better than perfect. She'd made them real, and that, Andrea thought as she drifted off to sleep, was the greatest revenge of all. Not destroying Glenn, not punishing him, but surviving him, thriving despite him, building a life so good, so full, so honest that his betrayal became just a chapter in her story, not the ending, just the beginning of something better.